push the I do the dash, on my way to the bag, boy, you know I push the gas.
How you doing, guys? It's Ricky, and in this video we're going to talk about what it's like to ride a leader bike that does not have rider assists. Alright, every leader bike made in the past decade, and even your Hayabusa and ZX14R, is loaded with rider assists, right? There's traction control, there's launch control, there's the wheelie control, stuff like that, all designed to help riders ride really powerful bikes safely and be a little bit more forgiving if you give it too much throttle in a certain situation or whatever. It allows the bike to be a little bit more forgiving. This, on the other hand, is my 2008 Honda CBR 1000RR, okay? It does not have any rider assists, so in any given moment, if you whack the throttle wide open, it's going to give you what you asked for, right? There's nothing that's going to control the power for you. You are the only thing in control of how much power the bike's going to give you. So if you whack the throttle wide open, the bike knows you're asking for power, and it gives you power. So a lot of people think that riding a leader bike like this that doesn't have rider assists is really difficult, that it's uncontrollable, it's an untamable machine, whatever, right? To some extent that is a little bit true. It is a little bit sketchy, but the fact that this is sketchier than other leader bikes is why machines like this bike here are some of the most exhilarating machines to possibly operate. That's coming from somebody that's ridden multiple leader bikes, flown airplanes, ridden on jet skis, all sorts of crazy shit. And this is the biggest adrenaline rush and the most exciting machine I have ever operated, is these leader bikes without rider assist, alright? And I promise you that you can operate these machines safely. There's just a few things to consider, right? So let's start from the beginning, right? Launching. When you're riding a leader bike without rider assists, when you launch, if you give it too much throttle, you might lose traction on the rear wheel and fishtail a little, or if you do get traction, you might loop it, right? So you have to roll on the throttle. You can't just whack it wide open. You have to slowly roll on the throttle and tell the bike how much power to put to the rear wheel without picking up the front wheel, okay? On your bikes nowadays with launch control, you can whack the throttle wide open, give it 100% throttle, and it still might not power wheelie very much at all, because the bike is using the computer to tell the rear wheel how much power it's going to get, right? Okay, so let's say you launch perfectly fine, right? What's next? Well, there's no wheelie control on this machine and other leader bikes that don't have the rider assists, right? So it doesn't even take 100% throttle to get a power wheelie to start to come up in first, second, and even third gear at about 8 to 10,000 RPM, right? So if you're holding the throttle wide open even after you got rolling, there's still a chance that you might do a power wheelie, right? And you have to either shift gears or learn how to roll on the throttle just in that perfect manner that allows it to get 100% of the power, because you're getting it up to 12 or 13,000 RPM, but without having too much of a power wheelie, right? That takes a lot of practice, and it requires a very skilled rider with a very good understanding of the machine in order to be able to do that. I can't do that. I generally just shift as soon as I start feeling the front wheel pick up, and I give it, you know, maybe like 60 to 80% throttle in first through third gear, depending on the gear. And that's honestly plenty to do your around town hooligan shit and gap most cars that you might race or whatever you do around town, right? Another thing to consider about these machines is that there's no traction control. So again, when you ask for power by twisting the throttle, it gives you exactly what you ask for. There are some situations where you might not really want what you asked for, right? If you give give it too much throttle in a corner, or if you give it too much throttle while there's water on the road after it rained. Those are two times where traction control would usually kick in and slow down the rear wheel speed. But on a bike like this, there is no traction control, so you might fishtail or lose traction on that rear end. If you're in a corner, that could be really, really bad, right? So you have to understand this machine and understand how much power it can handle, whether you're leaning in a corner or whether there's water on the road, so that way you can operate the machine safely. Another thing that modern leader bikes have that this bike does not is power modes. Super sport leader bikes nowadays have power modes that allow you to turn it down to like 600 cc, and it might top out at only making 130 horsepower, you know. There might be a middle mode that's like a 750 cc where it's topping out at making like 150, 160, and then there's the full power modes, and that's where the bike lets you rev it all the way out and get up to 170 or 180 horsepower, whatever, right? These older bikes without the power modes, it's the power band stays the same no matter what. I can't tinker around with these modes. It's going to give me exactly what I ask for every time. So, are these bikes impossible to ride? Hell no. They're a blast to ride. Should you start on one? Hell no, right? Maybe if you raced motocross as a kid for multiple years and you worked your way up to like 450, 500 cc two-stroke dirt bikes, then yes, you can control the power of a machine like this if you're looking to get one as a street bike, even if it is your first street bike. Other than that though, no, you should not start on one of these machines. That being said, you might be able to start on a leader bike with rider assist just because it has those power modes, and I mean 600cc super sports are honestly not difficult to ride at all. So these bikes do require a little bit of skill and they do require a responsible rider, but they are very fun to own, they are very fun to ride, and they aren't the most practical machines out there. You're not going to use this power, you're not going to use the speed very often while riding, but they are fun to own. It is a cool talking point at some car meets or motorcycle meets or bike nights or whatever to say like, oh yeah, it's an 08 CBR 1000RR, no rider assist, all skill, baby. But at the same time, those newer leader bikes with the rider assists, with the launch control and the wheelie control and shit like that, they're going to be faster than a bike like this all day long. And it's not because that rider's any more skilled than me or anybody else on a bike like this that doesn't have rider assist. It's just because those bikes have a computer in them that is allowing them to use as much power as they can possibly handle while still staying on two wheels, and you just can't beat that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe and let me know in the comments down below if there's any other kind of moto vlogs that you'd be interested in seeing, either on this bike, my CBR 1000RR, or my Harley Sportster. Thank you guys for watching.